Good morning. I'm going to try to take you a little bit through this chapter on symbolic interactionism theory. This is a major underpinning theory for all communications, really, and the meat of it begins on page 79, where it gives you the description of the theory in detail and its significance in terms of self-concept and in terms of human interaction, etc. Now, I'm not going to take you through the concept or through the theory verbatim or through all of the details. I just want to point out some of the major dimensions that are significant here. The most important thing about the theory is that it says that we human beings use words, use language to communicate in a complex way that connects us in ways that, say, the animal kingdom cannot be connected because they lack this symbology. Certainly, they communicate in terms of signs and other such things, but the complexity of our symbolic system is deep and enormous. At the very basic level, we simply use words to describe simple things that we all agree to the meaning of. In other words, this is a T-shirt. So I say T-shirt, and you know T-shirt, and you know at least the generic form of T-shirt. Now, of course, there are all kinds of T-shirts with different sorts of writing, like Whataburger on them. And Whataburger will be clear to you if you're a Texan, and if you live in New York, you may have heard of it, but you may be unclear as to exactly what it is. So we begin to get ambiguity as we go toward more abstract uses of words like love. Love is a very abstract term. It is difficult to define what love is. Unlike car, I can say car, and the beauty of the word car in terms of our symbolic interaction is that we both know what it is. Now, I can be more specific. I can say a black car, a black sedan, a 1969 black sedan, and we can get a clearer and clearer meaning of what we're both talking about by adding adjectives to it. So we get a more concrete understanding as we move away from the abstract dimensions of language. Now, when we get to something that is more and more ethereal, like love or friendship, these are difficult to define. So sometimes we go out of a linguistic system to a broader symbolic system to communicate what we mean. For instance, if like a man might say to his girlfriend, he might say, "Honey, I love you, and I love you so much that I'm going to express that love in the form of this 2 carat diamond. And so I give you this 2 carat diamond as a symbol of my love for you. Or here's this $80,000 Mercedes I bought you to show you my great love for you. It is a symbol of the thing. Or here's your castle by the sea. If you're a king, you give them the castle by the sea so they can see how the height, depth, and breadth of your love. It is symbolic of the thing. Words, you see, they stand for what's missing, and that's why it's a powerful communication system, because we can talk about what's not here. I don't have a car in this picture. I don't have a car I can hold in my hand and show you, but I can say car, and you can think of one in your mind. So it is incredibly efficient. We don't have to go to Paris for me to help you think of Paris in your mind. I just speak the word. Or we can do it. Well, here's another interesting thing about symbolic interaction that is highly unusual for human beings as compared, well, it's not unusual for human beings, it's very different from what the animal kingdom is able to do. For instance, some of us think that our dogs and our pets understand language. Well, uh, they do seem to understand language. What they really do is they work on a sign-based system. Everything's a kind of one-to-one referent. Like I have a dog that understands the word beach. I can say uh, to her, "Would you like to go to the beach?" Or I just say the word beach alone, and she gets excited, starts jumping around as if we're going to the beach right now, this moment. But for the life of me, I cannot communicate to her the idea of tomorrow. We'll go to the beach tomorrow. She understands it as now. So I'm careful never to bring up the word beach unless we're going now. Otherwise, it's cruel because I cannot communicate tomorrow or day after tomorrow or next weekend. She has no ability to deal with the abstract nature across time. So we are by nature, by language, time travelers because we can talk about the beginning of every story. Long ago and far away, there was once a kingdom by the sea. And so we can be transported across time and space because of language, and which do it immediately, instantaneously. Now, what else do we have? Back to this other notion I wanted to get to is what Kenneth Burke, who we'll study later, said that mankind is the inventor of the negative, that we can communicate through the use of the negative, what is not present, what the quality that is not here. I mean, you go into class and we take roll based upon who is here and who is not here, who is not present. So to be able to define the thing that is not is a uniquely human characteristic that is given to us by language. It is very difficult to communicate to animals the concept of what is not here. They deal with the positive world, what is actually physically in front of us. Whereas I can ask you, why are you sad? And you say, because, uh, my girlfriend or my boyfriend has been gone for 3 weeks. I haven't seen them. Uh, they've not been here. I have felt the lack of their presence and I'm sad because of it, you see. And so we have this ability through language to describe exactly why we feel what we feel on the basis of something that is not in existence. And that's interesting. In fact, I can ask perhaps a young woman, I'll say, you are single, you're unmarried, and so can you tell me what your perfect husband will be like? And she might say, well, I can't tell you what my perfect future husband will be like, but I'll tell you what he will not be like. He will not be a lazy guy who lays around on the couch with a wife beater t-shirt and never works. I'm not going to marry that guy. He will not be someone who is an atheist. He will not be a guy who doesn't love children. I'm not going to marry that guy. And he's not going to be a guy who's not going to respect me, and he's not going to be someone who doesn't like my parents. So you see, she's able to define, to carve out the person that she will most accept by virtue of the characteristics and qualities that he will not have. And there's a name for this. It's called definition by negation. We define it by telling what it is not. And this is available to us because of language. We are the inventor of the negative so that we can define things in a positive sense and we can define it by what it doesn't have. It reminds me of the story about the sculptor. And they say, how do you carve a sculpture of David? And he said, well, I begin with marble and I take away all the things that are not David. I remove in artistry, they sometimes call it the negative space. I remove this part that is negative, that is not the thing, and then I end up with the sculpture. So, symbolic interactionism is about all of that. It's about our language system in the literal concrete method of chair for chair and car for car. And then it has this abstract dimension of love, which of course may differ from one culture to another as to what is symbolic of love. For instance, I have a wedding ring. I'm put over here. I have a wedding ring, and here in America, that is symbolic of me being married. It is a non-linguistic symbol of marriage, right? But if I go to parts of Europe, parts of South America for that matter, this ring needs to be on the other finger to indicate that I'm married, because over here it indicates that I'm not. So the symbolic systems and meanings of them and the interaction and understanding of them in the clearest way possible changes by virtue of crossing cultures. Now, one other thing that I'd like to point out is that we live in a world right now where I think the complexity and the beauty of this symbolic interactionism at the highest levels is greater than it's ever been. And this comes to us in the form of memes, where you can click on a little short video and send it to a friend to communicate what you mean in a certain moment in time, and providing that they're also connected to that unique video expression or metaphor, then you understand each other, and you understand each other in the way that you understand an inside joke, and it is more satisfying and beautiful because perhaps you two uniquely understand it. Another example is my wife, for instance. She and her sister are both lovers of Friends, and they communicate with dimensions of Friends in a shorthand way, and they communicate using just one word, one phrase. Like one that they use is find. I'm find, they say. And so the use of find indicates that they're referring to a moment in Friends that they both understand and grasp immediately, and they use it as a shorthand expression or metaphor for communicating what they both have a personal connection to. And so this use of memes is a beautiful development in human linguistic symbolic interaction, because it allows us to use these special forms and identify intensely and efficiently in ways that perhaps we haven't been able to do quite so frequently before. Okay, that's enough on symbolic interactionism. Read the text, and I'll talk to you again soon.